just getting set up. All right. I'm alive. You're alive. Let's do this thing. Hello, my name is Mike Bifulco. I am Director of Technology of the Gymnasium.com, the internet website on the internet, kicking it live for you. We have some free online video-based, self-paced, wonderful courses on great stuff having to do with design and development and all the wonderful things that you should learn if you're interested in being a modern, technological whiz creative in 2019. Soon to be 2020. Don't freak out. We have some great courses. We just released this new course, which is still free, still self-paced, still video-based, and it's about prototyping for digital products and websites. It's a fantastic course. We have a wonderful instructor for it, Jenna, and you should go and give it a look. It is really, really phenomenal. If you are at all interested in prototyping, I think you'll really enjoy it. There's lots of good storytelling in here about the value and need for prototyping and some tricks and tools and approaches you can take for doing prototyping. However, that is not why I'm here today. Every Tuesday, I get on Twitch to live stream and talk about some of the stuff I'm working on. And so, as it were, I'm here to do exactly that. We are in the middle of a project where we're working on building up a storybook of Gymnasium components in a way that is usable and modernable and functional for our team here at Gymnasium. These will be used for our future front end for the site. And they're all part of a few different projects and moving bits and pieces I've got going on my end here, which will result in a pretty major relaunch of Gymnasium this year on an updated platform, which should make lots of our efforts much easier. And so, starting from there, I'm going to pick up where we were last week and keep working on what we were working on. So, if you were here with us last week, we were building in Storybook, which is a JavaScript sort of generalist library, which helps you prototype components. Said components are built out sort of in a vacuum so that you can build out your button, so that your button always looks like what you want it to, and your links always look like what you want them to, and so on and so forth. And split out your presentation development efforts from your back-end logic, whatever other efforts you've got going on, APIs, for example. And the goal for us is that the storyboard will let us debug little things that are going on in our interface, but it'll also enable Justin, our designer, to work on some of this stuff in parallel with me and learn some of the workflow for submitting pull requests for updated and new components and all those things as we move into a world where Gymnasium is built on, in part at least, on React. So that's why we're here. We went forward a few steps, back a few steps last week on the stream where we left things off, where we were building this gym button component, which I'm certain I'm on the right branch, although, well, something doesn't look right here. In theory, this should be orange, should be orange, but it isn't currently, so I'm going to figure out what's going on there. Let's do some debugging. So, per usual, if you have any questions while I'm streaming, feel free to fire away. If you're watching from thegymnasium.com, you can type, I believe, into the chat panel there. If you're on Twitch, you should know where all this stuff is anyway. Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of talk through what I'm thinking about and what I'm doing as I work here. What I'm expecting to see on this button are some classes being applied, but I'm not sure I see those things. So that is likely because this styles thing isn't working correctly. So let's do a console.log styles. Whoa. There is some serious slowness going on here. Might be indicative. Oh, right. And I wanted to go through that too. Okay. Well, we got a few things going on here. That's okay. Styles is this big, fat, empty guy. That's not good. Yeah, okay. So we were starting to explore CSS modules last week, and that's why this isn't working. I think if I did gym button.css, and instead of that, I did this, and I did style, or yeah, class name equals container. Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, yeah, well, we can still leave that word module there. That doesn't really do anything. The refresh thing, this thing, it should remake itself and in theory have a class applied, but it doesn't. Let's see. Oh, yes, sirs. If you put a dot in front of your class name, it really makes things confusing. There it is, button's back. Okay. It's obviously not perfect. It looks like there's some, let's see if we can zoom here. Oop, oop, oop. Please. How does this work? I'm not great with computers, as we all know. Yeah, it looks like there's a border there, a drop shadow or something that's got to go. But before we get too deep into the weeds for that, there are a few things that I want to make note of. So I'm going to commit these changes just because this thing is working right now, and I noticed I had these commits in flight. Starting to build button. There we go. Okay. A couple of different things going on here. So in the window here, we saw that Storybook 4.1.13 is available, and I want to see what that's about. So there should be a full changelog here. Wow, git.io. I didn't know there was a URL shortener available for that stuff. That's cool. So we're looking at 4.1.13, but there are release candidates for 5 coming out. Ooh, maybe we'll try that today too. The UI for Storybook 5 looks very, very good. Okay. Cleanup version notice. Use static versions.json file instead of hacking one in. Meh. Okay. Well, that's okay too. Let's, I want to know what's going on with Storybook 5. I don't know if there's like a guide or something to using it on the repo here. But, okay, first we're going to update this. So we're going to do this process, which we've done before. Yarn upgrade interactive latest, which will give us a list of all of the dependencies we have that are due for update. Okay, all of these look like a good idea to update. They're all minor, major, minor. They're all revision changes, so that should be not a big deal. Generally, you don't even really need to go look at documentation for what's going on with revisions. They're usually documentation or bug fixes or things that don't affect the way that the application, that the library, whatever you want to call it, package presents itself. Sometimes it's worth reading. Generally, I do read them anyway, but on a live stream, it's not always the most exciting thing to see. Hey, here's a question for you if you're someone watching this, which might just be Justin or Josh. When you're watching the stream and you see my face, is there a lag between my mouth moving and the sound, or vice versa? Probably the sound first, mouth second. I was watching one of the videos that was available on Twitch from a recent stream, and that was really the case, and it was really bad. And if that's the case, I really want to figure out how to fix that. We're going to run this thing, Storybook. Hopefully it'll fire up again. If it does, we'll commit those changes and then start fussing with maybe the new one. And then I'll show you some of the other stuff I want to get into today. Here's a clap for a test. Good idea. Several claps. A bit. A bit, I guess, as long as it's not super annoying while you're watching. Okay, so I would like to fix that, though. Particularly the rebroadcasts are gross. And maybe that's just from watching it on Twitch. Maybe if I export it, it's not so bad. I'm not really sure. Okay. Anyway, those dependency updates worked. So I'm going to bring over my old tower client here for Git, and I'm going to commit these things, update dependencies. And then, briefly, we're going to try something else here. We're going to do... I want to see if we can use Storybook next. Storybook/React. Okay. So I think if I just change this to @next, maybe? It might just be next. Oop. Oh, I changed the wrong thing, didn't I? Let's see if that does the trick. It did. Cool. Now, who knows if this will actually run. Maybe there's some instructions here. I saw some previews of the updated Storybook UI, and it looks really nice, which is kind of the only reason I'm going down this rabbit hole to begin with. Give that a minute to load all of its things. Hey, it looks like that might have worked. So this is the old interface here. This is the new interface. So much cleaner. So much less Windows 95 gray looking. That's cool. It's got a nice cool blue hue to it. There's a zoom feature, which is great because I was just messing around with that. Ooh, that's cool. There's a zoom reset. There's on a grid. Oh, that's great. Share? What does that do? Oh, yeah. Opens it in its own context. That's wonderful. Sweet. Okay. Change add-ons orientation. Go full screen. Search previous component. About my storybook. Awesome. That's great. We're gonna stick with this unless we find something that breaks it. Try storybook at next. That was pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, cool. So, we can pick up where we left off last time. Or, that is a very strange outline. How peculiar. I thought that was just a facet of being zoomed in a minute ago. Maybe not. Excuse me. So some of what I want to do is pick up where we left off last time. I'm going to start building out the framework, perhaps is the right word, the shape of the way all these components will be organized in here. I think that's a good place to start. There's obviously from the Gymnasium website, there's loads and loads of these things that we can do. And theoretically, we could build out, we could build out buttons, we could build out links, we could build out text, section, presentational containers, and then start putting those things together in the Storybook even and recreate some pages potentially. Although I'm not sure if that's really what Storybook is meant to do. But yeah, interesting. So some of the other things I was interested in doing was potentially moving our Storybook, moving the Storybook project or adding to the Storybook project a Gatsby site, because we're thinking about using Gatsby as our CMS presentation layer-ish thing. I don't even know what to call it in the stack that we're going to end up with. That would enable for us CSS modules, I think, relatively easily. If they're not built in directly to Gatsby, there's at least a Gatsby plugin. That's why I've got this Gatsby.js tab here. The other option is to do it inside of a Create React app, which admittedly I am more expert on. But we could do either. I don't know. We could do neither. I could just carry on styling up some of these things and building out a library of them, or the shape of the library of them, and come up with a good workflow for that. Lots of options here. I think I want to do one or the other with Gatsby or Create React app because I want to use CSS modules so that from the onset the styles don't stomp on each other, because we already saw that one of the downsides of loading CSS this way is that it gets loaded onto the page. And CSS rules might start to squish each other in some scenarios, if I had a story with multiple components in it, for example. So let's get the modules thing taken care of. I think that's a good idea. Let's try to do that with Gatsby. Yeah, okay. We've committed all these things. That's lovely. Let's go through that whole process. So I'm wondering what the best way to do this is. I can either try and add Gatsby to the Storybook project, or start a Gatsby project and add the stories to it. I have a feeling the latter might be easier, but I'm going to try the former just to see what would happen. So Gatsby is a static website builder built on React. It's a lot like Jekyll or Hugo or some of the other ones out there. We're going to run through the quick start. It doesn't take long. It's pretty easy to do, but it might get messy here. Let's see. Actually, I think we might have to start with Gatsby first, because I don't know if there's a way to add Gatsby to something. Let's see. Add Gatsby to... No. Okay, cool. So we will do the other way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and we're going to do a... Oh, this is... Naming is a whole thing that we're going to have to figure out later on, which I'll discuss with my team. In the meantime, this can live in whatever named repo we want. That doesn't really matter. Okay. npx Gatsby. And then pick the name of the thing. We're going to say Gymnasium on Gatsby. Maybe Gymnasium Marketing is a better name. npx Gatsby new. And we're not going to use a starter, I don't think. We want to start with as little dependencies as possible and then add those things in as I make my life inevitably worse for myself. It's not that big of a deal. We'll be okay. So the Storybook project will come back, but we're... Oh no, don't freeze. Please don't freeze. Okay. We're going to let that sit for a bit while we build out this here Gatsby site. I'm going to open that same site. Very slowly in Visual Studio while my computer melts itself. Josh, how's my clap test going now? I wonder, as my laptop gets more and more burdened, how far behind the frames I'm getting here. All right, so we've created our Gatsby site. And now all I have to do to run it is yarn develop. Oh, actually it's gonna yell about package lock, so we'll initialize git first. We'll do git add git ignore git commit git add dot git commit. And then we're going to immediately do git rm package lock git add dot git status git and then we'll do a yarn which will install my packages. Good. Git add. Bunch of good stuff here. Okay. I wonder if Gatsby prefers NPM for some reason. Okay. Gonna do this from the UI for a second here. Bear with me. Okay, we're back. In here, we have that being deleted. Oh no, don't freeze. We're going to discard those local changes, which will undelete that. Now we're good. So, Anyway, to run this thing, all I have to do is yarn develop, and it'll run the Gatsby site. Yeah, it is desyncing more. That's a bummer. That is me reaching the limit of RAM on this machine, I have a feeling. And probably processing power. Although, as I look at it, I'm using 12% of my processor to spit this out at 30 frames a second. So I don't know if it's the processor so much as RAM or swap or whatever, hard drive speed. Okay, so now if I open localhost 8000, here's our starter. It's very default and very basic, but that's what we wanted. And immediately we're going to start messing that up by adding Storybook to it and adding our stories into it. And eventually we'll come back and revisit this default starter and build out Gymnasium's homepage inside of this page here. So let's do that. We're going to do Storybook because we like Storybook. Okay. Oops. I think those are out of date instructions for initializing Storybook. I don't need to globally install it because now we have npx. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so we're going to do npx Storybook CLI sb init. So we're going to, I'm not sure what the P does. That's okay. So we'll initialize the Storybook. Oh, look at that. It was right here. Okay. So that'll do all of those things. We've done this before on stream, and this takes a minute. It says, the next steps to update your Storybook config, open .storybook/config.js and modify the content as follows. Automatically import all files. Okay, so there's some changes to be made. Cool. Luckily that's all thought of for me, and I haven't touched anything else, so this should work really well. Great. Okay. We've done all those things. Let's keep following the directions here. So now we want to update your Storybook config in .storybook/config, and we're going to add a couple of lines of code here. Huh. So it seems to just be telling me how to do my job. I don't like that at all. I may I may not do this step here, because that's just saying import all files with stories.js inside of source, but I kind of like having a separate stories folder. I don't know. No, that's okay. We'll stay on the supported path for once in my life. And I can still put stories inside of the source folder. Let's do that. Okay. Gatsby defines a global loader to prevent its method calls from creating console errors if you console errors, probably if you override it here. Okay, Gatsby internal mocking to prevent unnecessary errors in Storybook testing environment. This is utilized to override the window navigate method Gatsby defines and is used to report what path a link would be taking us to if it wasn't inside a storybook. Boy, a fair bit of typos here. That's okay. So this all goes before configure and after load stories. That's cool. Okay, we got those in place. You can remove the stories folder from the root of your project or move it inside of your source folder. Now make some adjustments to Storybook's default Webpack configuration so you can transpile Gatsby source files and ensure you have the necessary Babel plugins to transpile Gatsby components. Create a new file called webpackconfig.js inside the Storybook folder created. We can do that. I think it's webpack.config.js. Yes. And then place the following in that file. Can do. We'll read through it here. Okay, it says transpile Gatsby module because Gatsby includes untranspiled ES6 code. Makes sense. Use installed Babel loader, which is 8 beta, which is meant to work with Babel Core at 7. Use Babel preset React for JSX and env. Okay, so this is really just a configuration for Webpack. That's cool. Once you have this configured, you should run Storybook to ensure it can start up properly and see the default stories installed by the CLI. To run Storybook, do yarn Storybook. I wonder if there's a way to keep me in sync by, like, I don't even know what I would do. To maybe shut off my mic and bring it back? I'm going to mute it for a second. Maybe now it's in sync? Probably not. I feel like no. Okay, Storybook has started. So now, in theory, I'll come back over here. There's my Storybook. Yep. Gatsby's not still running in the background, but Storybook is indeed running. And that's lovely. Okay, so we're going to say Gatsby with Storybook. Commit. Yep. It's probably going to be unhappy that that yarn lock is also there, but that's okay. Committed. We can always fix that later on. Okay, we've added some basic stories inside the source stories directory. Ooh, it even got that right. Source stories index. And if I change this, for example, to a hello button, sweet, we're running a Storybook. Okay. Okay, so let's do the CSS modules next. Oh my god, are they just built in? Okay, even better. So let's import our stories from the other project. Let me do that. Source, Gymnasium, Storybook, stories. We're going to move this guy into here. Add folder. Nope, that's it. Oh god. Did that do what I wanted? That did not in any way do what I wanted. Remove folder from workspace. Okay, get out of here. We're just gonna copy those two things and move them manually. Sorry, I'm doing some of this off camera because I can. Source, stories. You'll see it appear in just a moment here. Okay. Visual Studio has been acting real funny with files not showing up lately. I'm just going to shut it down and restart it for a second here. I think there's a bug in Visual Studio somewhere along the line where this folder view becomes out of sync. See, these files just appeared here, but I added them in manually. So, we do need to call this .stories.js. So we're going to delete this file. This is the old thing that sets up stories. We don't need that anymore. Delete, move to trash, goodbye. This is going to become index.stories.js. And I probably just broke the heck out of this. Story.js, index.story.js. Okay, if I go refresh this, it's possible I need to do this again. Sorry, you either have no stories or none are selected somehow. Please check the storybook config, try reloading the page. Okay. No, I was right. It is stories.js. Yeah, okay, cool. Cool, that's great. That's even better. Okay, so the case is that this gym button just has a bad import now, so. Oh, because we don't actually have the gym button component in here. Yeah, okay. We can work with that. Storybook, source, components. Copy that. And then come into, sorry, again, doing some business off stream here. Source, components. And then, unfortunately, reset Visual Studio, because it's doing a bad job of detecting changes. That might be a thing on my Mac. I don't really know what's going on with that. But I do know that when we come back, there will be a gym button bit here, and that's good. So, we'll rerun that. I'm going to make sure this is actually pointing to the right spot. Okay, what do we got? Oh, did that look like it was working? So many extra tabs open. It sure does to me. Hell yes, we are in business. So we've got Storybook running on top of Gatsby with our old hello button component. So we're gonna kill that for a second. We're gonna say import stories from old project. We're going to quickly come in here and update Storybook at React to be next. These might also have to be next. Nexted. I'll try next for all of them. I am freaking out. Doesn't usually go this well. This is usually about when it starts to not go well, once I say something like that. We'll see. Okay, that is indeed a problem. Can't read property module of undefined. And it's possible that the new Storybook no longer needs all of that Webpack config. So, for now we're going to live without that shiny new Storybook, rather than me go down an hour-long detour that we don't need. And that's okay. Okay, so we should be back in business here with that thing running on 6006, which is kind of a funny port number, but I'm good with it. Let's now get into what we were talking about before. So I'm going to close all the open stuff in here, and we're going to look at the story for the button. Nope, we're going to look at the actual button and the way it is made up. Because now we have CSS modules, we can say classes from, actually I think that's how it works. Import classes from module.css, and then we're going to say classes.container here. And that should not work. Okay, CSS modules, come on now. Import container styles from .container.module.css. We have done that. I didn't call it that. Class name equals, yeah. There might be something I need to do to enable this. Add CSS, include the style sheet in Gatsby browser. Start the development server. Use component scope CSS. Gatsby works out of the box with CSS modules. It's highly recommended for those new to building with Gatsby and React in general. Create a container component. Sure. create a new directory at source components, and then in this directory, create a file named container.js and paste the following. That's a very simple React component. We've seen those before. In the same directory, create a container.module.css file and paste the following. There's your style. You'll note the file name ends with .module.css. Just like mine. Instead of the usual CSS, this is how you tell Gatsby that this file should be processed as a CSS module rather than plain CSS. Create a new page component by creating a file as source pages about CSS modules.js. Now if you visit blah blah blah, your page should look something like this. In this section, you'll create a list of people with names. What is going on here? All right, let's just see what is missing here. So I'm going to debugify this by doing what I was doing before. I'm going to do console.dir classes are, oops, in a string, of course. Classes are classes. Classes are blank as hail. Okay. Would love to know pourquoi. Maybe I'm missing a destructure or something. No. But why? Oh, maybe we really have to. Oh. This might be because I'm not running Gatsby right now. I'm running Storybook, and Gatsby does the transpiling of the module here. Okay, let's experiment with that. So we'll follow this tutorial otherwise, but we've already got a component, so we're just going to make a page and drop that component on it. Source, get out of components, do pages. We'll do it on index. That's fine. And on that index page, we're going to import the button. Oh my god. What is happening? There we go. Import the button. And then here, we're going to drop in a gem button. Hello. And then we're going to run. So that won't affect the storybook because the storybook does not care about those pages. So we're going to do Gatsby develop, which if we look at this package.json, we should have a script for develop. So go and develop. Now in theory, we can come to this guy. We've got a button, and the button has CSS modules because it's orange and not gray. And we have just reached an interesting impasse. So let's point out what's going on here. So what the CSS modules does is it creates a class that is hyper-scoped to that button. So it's called gem button dash module dash dash container and then some generated string, which is that very specific rule that I created called container in this CSS file. So it doesn't look like that. The rule in the browser is actually gem button module container, and that's so that this class is only ever applied to this one thing on the screen here, and it doesn't matter what the rest of the CSS is applied anywhere. That button should appear like we expect it to. That's what we want. And that introduces a tricky challenge for us here. So, okay, we're going to do a couple of things. So, yarn add concurrently D, which will add it to the package.json develop. Concurrently lets you run two things at once using a single yarn command. I guess I can pull that up. It's very simple. Run multiple commands concurrently. So we install it and then we run two commands in quotes. So it's now added. So we're going to do a we'll do develop, and we're going to do no, we're going to do dev. We'll call it, you know what? Here we go. I got it. Story dev colon concurrently, and we're going to say yarn storybook, and then in another set of quotes, yarn develop. And now if I come in here, it should run both at the same time. I think these two things will run at the same time. They're running on different ports. Okay, so that ran our storybook, which has our broke-ass button in it still, unfortunately. It also ran, I think, yeah, Gatsby, so we've got them both running at the same time. That's a start. Well, there's a lot going on here. Source pages index.js warning from is defined but is never used. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Okay. Cool. Wondering if there's a way to split out what concurrent is spitting out a little more easily. Maybe not. That's okay. We'll live with that for now. We're gonna do some looking around in the storybook. Yeah, I guess we're going to reach the same problem here, that we have to tell Storybook how to CSS Module. Okay, Storybook, CSS Modules. Where there's a will, there's a way, my friends. unless this issue says it's impossible. Okay. Just for future reference, if you want to add just add CSS modules to your React Storybook project, add a webpack.config.js, which we already have inside of Storybook, and inside of module.exports, we want to boy. We want to add a loader with this in it. Default config module rule 0. So we're going to do this a slightly different way. Module.loaders equals this array. Will this work? The world may never know. I need to fire it up again. We're just going to start the storybook for now because it's faster to run just the one, presumably. I don't know. Invalid configuration object. Webpack has been initialized using a configuration object that does not match the API schema. Configuration.module has an unknown property loaders. These properties are valid. Okay, okay. Okay. Let's try that. Nope, that didn't work. Loader should use module. It should be one of these. Non-empty string, a function, an object. Oops. I am really shooting from the hip here because I've never seen Webpack configured this way before with a function. But I speak JavaScript at the very least. Cannot set property 0 of undefined. Okay. Shoot. Configuration module rules 0 loaders should be one of these. A non-empty string, a function, an object, function, and an array of, let's see. Loader should be one of these. What if we change this to a 1? Just to not step on the other config stuff we're doing. No, okay. So it's saying loaders should be one of these, a non-empty string, or a function, or an object, or another function, okay, or an array of all of those things. That looks like an array of objects. But let's try this way. Okay, let's do this. Webpack. We're going to figure this out. Can't be that hard, right? It's just transpiling languages on languages on languages. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. Okay, so this is what I'm expecting to see here. We want to figure out where the loaders go. So this is an example config file. Module resolve, performance, stats. Module.exports equals module loaders. Let's try that. Let's set this up down here. I should probably also scroll down further on that issue. Oh, yeah, okay. Nice, okay. I should have read further. Let that be a lesson to you. Module, rules, 0. We're going to do rules 1 equals, and then we're just going to drop this beautiful thing in here. I'll leave myself a comment in a moment here. So this is saying set up another rule. In that rule, we're going to put this test, this loader mabob. Let's try that. No. Okay. Configuration module rules 1 should be an object. You're probably not wrong there. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. This is no longer an array. That's literally the object. We're getting closer. That error seemed more promising. Webpack, I know. I never thought I would get this far. I'm gonna call Sean Larkin in a minute here and yell at him or whatever that guy's name is. To be fair, the documentation was pretty good. If this actually works, that was a molehill of a problem to get over compared to some of the other stuff I've... No! I lied. Error in that. Unknown word. I probably need to add those loaders. CSS loader and style loader. I don't know if I have. Okay, let's do yarn add CSS loader style loader. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're getting somewhere though. There's a lot of ways to get yourself in trouble here, and I've barely done any configuration. I'm hoping that's a good thing. When I need to ask for trouble, at least I can run away and have a pretty close to default repo set up. Okay. And I think there's a chance if this works, I can move those from a dependency to a dev dependency because they don't need to be out in production. Good, it didn't work anyway. Unknown word once again. Okay, let's see. Let's look at loaders. Loaders. Okay, so that should be in dev. Anyway, so we're going to move those straight off because that seems perfectly reasonable. And style loader. This, of course, should be down here. After B, that goes there with a comma. And we can go look at this config once again. Rules test CSS use loader style loader loader CSS loader. Maybe this modules thing is the problem here. Do you have file loader installed? Oh, no, I don't. Do I need file loader here? I mean, it may be installed secondarily from Gatsby. But that's a good point. We'll try that next. No one understands Webpack completely. That's the good news, I guess. Feels like we're getting closer and farther away at the same time. Unknown word. Ooh, this is messy. Okay. Let's keep going down that issue. Obviously we want modules to be true here. I don't know why I pulled that out. Just found Storybooks has a dependency on React scripts. Just install React scripts and everything should work. Happy coding. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll see if it works. I'm most skeptical about this. We'll try this config next. Oh, that looks familiar. Okay. This is what it's like to build software in 2019. Some random person's comment on an issue buried in a thing, buried in another thing. Let's see. Okay. React scripts is what runs Create React App. It's a big package maintained by Facebook. I'm suspicious that I would have needed to configure my configure my storybook initially from React scripts, which I can still do. I'd just be redoing some of the steps we had taken earlier. No, yeah, that didn't work. Let's take out the rules that I added here. Try it again. That's a weird require. That says unknown word on var. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Weird. Oh, what does that mean? Now it's running. Oh my good great God. Is there any chance that did it? Did that work? What in the hell? I can't believe that worked. Okay. What did we do? What's the difference here? I guess I don't need all those loaders I just added. Yeah, commit and push and don't touch that code. Man, that is not in my nature. I need to know the bare minimum that will make this thing work. I added CSS loader, file loader, and style loader. Let's get rid of those. And run this again. Oh God, okay. I appreciate all the color commentary. Hers 3H, however you want to say that. Yeah, how'd you find the stream? I'm curious. Alright, let's see if I broke it again. Holding my breath here. Oh, cool. Yeah, right on. Well, welcome. I stream every week, every Tuesday. This is part of my work for thegymnasium.com. We are a online coding school, design school, and I get into lots of trouble on my live streams. I do about an hour and a half every week. Boom, bang. I can't believe this is working. That's really cool. Okay, so let's call that maybe the bare minimum. We know we don't need this loader code. Wow. Okay. So this is going to be, what did we do? This is just React scripts, is that right? Oh, it's hard to tell now. Concurrently I added, that's cool. Storybook, oh yeah, okay, I did a lot of stuff here, that's a bummer. Okay, Storybook plus concurrently plus CSS Modules. I guess I should do run both of them together to see if I've broken the other side of things, so the Gatsby side of things. Yeah, you can put emoji in a commit message, and they'll show up on GitHub even. I forget where I saw that. There's one project that I follow where they have an emoji. There, it seems like they put an emoji at the beginning of every commit message, which really adds a lot of flavor to the commit log experience, and kind of gives you some character to what's going on there. It's much more interesting to see, and to be honest, I kind of spam emoji. Anyone I chat with on the regular will probably tell you that. I ain't ashamed of it. Okay, so that worked. Let's do 8,000. Yeah, awesome. They're still both working. Okay, cool. So let's close a ton of windows here. We're going to commit some things and push some things. Okay. Add gym button component. Sorry. Okay. So where are we now? So that means I've got a storybook running here. I've got Gatsby running at 8,000 here, and I can use them in concert to see. So Storybook can be used just to develop the button if I wanted to. So for example, we know we had earlier been talking about the button having that gross border, so we can figure out where that's coming from. So there's the container, which is the button. We're going to say border 0 and hit save. And look at that, the button just went away in both cases. And it still works, and life is good. So what I would do from here basically is I could do lots of little commits like I would typically, and granted there should be other branches and things on top of that, but I can add a little commit here that says get rid of border on button. It was gross and gray. And commit that. And that will show up in both places in context, and that's really nice. And so there are other things that I can do here, right? I think so. When we built this button, we didn't do an on-click thing, but I could start to build out the other features of this button. So if I wanted to give this thing an on-click handler, oops. Actually, I think that can still be null. Okay, cool. So that is the button. Now if I open up the story for the button, I think there's a way to plug in the way that works. So maybe not. Oh man, I still have some console logs in the project. Or do I? Is this old code? Oh, where is that coming from? Gym button. Got it. Okay, so we can go to the docs for Storybook and look at how they handle those things. I know we had a demo from that of that last week. Writing stories. Location for stories, on click, action clicked, right? So there's this action here. Bam. Sorry, no, this is a little compressed right now. On click equals action clicked. Yeah, great. Okay. So if I come back to my storybook, which is running at 6006, I click it. Of course, we don't get anything. That's what I wanted. Well, that must mean that I've got my handler done incorrectly on the button, right? Let's try. Console logs. Everyone's favorite. Let's see what's going on here when I click that. Yeah, okay, so the click is wired up correctly, but the storybook isn't working. What does that mean? Did I crash storybook somewhere in here and not realize it? And, ooh. Looks like it's still running. Is it possible this is a story that no longer exists? No. For clarity, what I'm expecting to see is actions appearing down here. But I don't see anything. That may be a project for next week. Suddenly I'm bumping up on my schedule here. Yeah, weird indeed. Okay, we're going to get into this next week. Let me just make sure I've got everything committed to a good point. Yeah, okay. Pair replacing action with debugger. That's a good idea. No, it doesn't seem to be even clickable. Why? Does anyone know? Very strange. Okay. Well, that's a sign that something's gone funky here. I'm going to commit that. No event listeners. Yeah, right, there's no event listeners on it for whatever reason, so... click. Yeah, my event listener seems to be disconnected from it. That might be the right way to put it. Shrink that down. Okay, well, I'm a little bit getting caught in the weeds on that. That's an important thing to sort out. Definitely. I'm going to leave this and not commit it for now, so that I remember where to pick up from next week. There are a few other things I want to do to get the project to a point where we are... Oh. No, yeah, okay. To get to the project to the point where we're sort of functional and off and running. We're a few steps away from essentially being able to go and build all of the things with this in their little atomic form and start building larger bits of interface from the smaller ones, which is nice. I think the next step is to get this in a repo for us to play around with that my team can collaborate on. I think after that, there's some cleanup that I'd like to do across the project still. There's a lot of mess going on here. But then we can do kind of an intensive training on how this stuff should work. And maybe to figure out some protocols, I guess, for how to build out this stuff. Like, to be honest, it might be nice to have the story in here, gymbutton.story.js in here, so that we can keep all that stuff in one location. I should spend some time and get ESLint and Prettier set up. ESLint, yeah, there's no ESLint configuration right now, so I should figure all that out too. And that'll get the workflow moving a lot better, and there'll be some code quality guarantees before we start collaborating and all that, and before I get myself into lots of trouble. Yeah, okay, well, with that being said, I'm going to shut down the stream for the week. I'll be back next week. We'll pick up somewhere near this. I might do some work on this in the interim, just because we're at a good, functional, sort of exciting point. And, I can see this accelerating from here, which is fantastic. It'll be really great. So the hope is to eventually replace Gymnasium's marketing pages with what we're building out here. And actually, the next step is to plug... excuse me, to plug Gatsby into our third-party CMS, which still uses GraphQL like Gatsby does, but doesn't do it locally like Gatsby does. So there's some work to be done here. Yeah, and we'll get there. This feels really good. So hey, thanks for hanging out. Herza, it was cool having you chat, man. I'd love to have you, man or woman or gal or guy or whatever, whoever you are. It would be cool to catch you next time. I'm on every Tuesday, same time, 1:30 to 3 Eastern US time, GMT, whatever, -5, I think it is. Yeah, we'll be back. I'll be here next week. We'll do more of this stuff. In the meantime, if you want to yell at me for any reason online, I am at Irreverent Mike, and I should add that I just launched my very own blog with one super opinionated post on something that's not important, but I will be working on next stream. I'm going to drop that link in chat, and you can check it out. Yeah. Otherwise, until then, have a good week, you guys. I will see you next week. I'm out of here.